Trolley Through Town, the National D-Day Memorial and the town of Bedford are teaming up to offer trolley tours following the footsteps of the Bedford Boys. I spoke with organizers about the timeline. Driving through Bedford, it's hard to miss the banners that line streets honoring each Bedford boy. It's a visual reminder of the history that's woven into the town, a community that's paid the ultimate sacrifice.
Living here, it has so much history here. And I've always thought Bedford kind of embodied what a free America is. And so having those values, it comes with a price tag, unfortunately.
Councilman Schley reminds us the price of freedom cost Bedford 19 lives on D-Day. Detailing the history of the young men lost are brass plaques set up in significant locations in town.
When people visit the memorial, everyone is always intrigued by the story of the Bedford Boys. It's such a moving, deeply personal story that people can connect to.
The current Bedford Boys Homefront tour connects memorial visitors to the town by giving them a map to follow or an app to download. But come August, memorial leaders are adding trolleys to the tour.
And we realized parking's kind of difficult downtown in Bedford. There's not many lots. On-street parking is 15 minutes to 2 hours. That's not a lot of time to actually soak in the different stops. And so that's when we started discussing the possibility of offering this as a separate ticketed trolley tour. When
there's a war, it's not necessarily just the soldiers, but it affects everybody. And this tour kind of touches on that.
Schley says connecting the memorial to the town of Bedford is very much intentional and has taken years to do so.
When you go over to Normandy, there's a lot of significance connected to Bedford. And so it's important that when people come from Normandy here, that we show them just how connected Bedford was to the war.
In fact, no town suffered greater loss than this one.
We had 4,413 men who died on D-Day, and we lost the most men percentage-wise than any other town in the United States. And so we have the opportunity to tell the stories of these 20 guys who grew up here in Bedford County.
And in just a few months, you won't have to walk plaque to plaque to learn their story, but trolley through town. And 10 News will cover Thursday's 75th anniversary D-Day event, and it'll be streamed live on our website, WSLS.com. We're also airing a 30-minute special commemorating the event June 6th, and that's at 7 p.m.